Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm David and thank you for returning to my series on object-oriented programming. Part 2 is about two of the big four concepts, encapsulation and abstraction. Let's go right ahead and start with encapsulation. Encapsulation really is quite a simple concept. It is just collecting things together and putting it under one name. So we do it all the time. It's like a word association game. If I said to you, person, you will have the idea that a person might have a head, body, arms and legs, an age, a name. If I was to come up with a class idea for, say, a house, in your mind, you would associate certain things with a house. So as part of that collection, you might have a kitchen, a bathroom, some bedrooms, a dining room, a lounge. You could come up with a class called house, and within that class you would put all of these things together into one sort of term. Another one could be football team. In a football team, you're already thinking about a collection in your head. You're thinking about being 11 players, a goalkeeper, perhaps a striker, somebody in midfield, the winger, etc. So it's all about coming up with one name, one phrase, and it really encompasses the idea of many things. And I'll show you diagrammatically what that might mean, and also we can throw in a little bit of code to show you an example of how we might do that. So I think the idea of encapsulation is pretty straightforward. It's not a difficult one to grasp. The diagram here shows what we would call the class of a person, and what are we collecting in that class? Well, we're collecting the arms, the body, the legs, and that idea basically. And here's an example of the code. It's very simple. There's a class called person, and within the brackets it shows that a person can have a name, and it can also have a number which would relate to an age. I must state that this isn't an object yet. This is just a class that we use to build objects. But that is how we would encapsulate those two ideas of a person into a class person. So, having covered encapsulation, let's move on to our second concept in object-oriented programming, abstraction. I like to think of abstraction a little bit like minimalism, exposing the minimum structure for everyday objects to understand and perform their function. Objects rarely need to know all of the details. What the object really needs to understand and know is how to function with the other object. Let's go through a few examples of what I mean in terms of abstraction and things in everyday life. Here we have a guy who has gone to the vending machine, and as a user he really doesn't need to know anything about how the coffee is made inside the machine. The only thing this person as a user needs to know is that if you press the right button next to the right picture, the coffee comes out at the bottom. And this is like many other items that we could choose where we simply don't know how things work. We just need to know how we would work with them. Again, there's just so many examples where the user object just presses a button for things to work. I think the top three are like that. The microwave, all of our tablet devices and phones. Microwave, you just hit a button. If you've got a jacket potato or a pizza slice, say, warm that up for me. I don't need to know how these things work. Nobody does know how these things work. And that's the point of abstraction, really. And there are other uses. For example, a trademark sauce is a good example, I think. As a user, I need to eat the sauce and enjoy it, but you might want to hide what the recipe is from the user. They don't need to know all the details of how you make the sauce. How about a magician's trick, for example? I'll show you the illusionist kind of like outcome, but I don't want you to know how I've managed to achieve this trick in front of your very own eyes. And the other one that I like is the sort of the mafia rule sort of idea. You've got some people, you want them to disappear. I don't want to know the details of how I get this job done via people. I just want the job done. So I hope that gives you a few examples, a bit of fun really, of where you could take abstraction. Well, there you have the second concept of abstraction. We think we've gone through the concept of that. How is it actually delivered in the C# programming language? Well, it's done through data abstraction. And if you go to w3schools.com, it has plenty of information about it there, but it does explain that data abstraction is the hiding of certain details and showing only the purposeful and kind of necessary information to the user. If you want to go there, check it out, that's great. There's loads of well-established examples. If you'd like me to do some further examples, that could be a lot of fun. If you want to like, comment or subscribe, and we could do similar to this video. But for now, it's time to move on. Time to move on to our third concept, inheritance. In this part 2, we've discussed encapsulation, grouping ideas into one class, and we've also talked about abstraction. Please move on to inheritance. Check out the next video, part 3. It's a little bit more advanced than beginner maybe, but you get to see what you need to be looking at least, the road ahead, and I'll cover the topics of inheritance and polymorphism. If you did like this video, please like and subscribe. I'd be very grateful. Thank you.